Hello, my name is Blossoms and welcome to another Genshin Impact video. And today we've got a brand new series coming out, and I just wanted to do a brief little intro here. This is basically kind of a team composition series where I go over team compositions kind of centered around one character and the different ways that you might be able to build around them. Obviously, these are all my opinions for what is best, and if you want to swap something out, go ahead and do it, and let me know your different team composition in the comments. I would love to see that. However, I do want to say, if you do enjoy the video, please leave a like and subscribe for more, as I will be doing more of these in the future. These are a little bit, graphic intensive, so they take me a little bit longer to make. And if I do leave anything out, I would also appreciate any feedback in the comments below for me to be able to better these videos in the future. However, with all of that said, let's go ahead and start off the new series for team compositions, starting with my current favorite character, Tartaglia or Childe. Alright, and before we get into the actual teams here, I think it is entirely vital that you memorize the different elemental reactions in the game, as well as some of the different elemental resonances. I'll go ahead and put up some graphics on the screen so you guys just have a brief overview of all of those. You can go ahead, pause, study those, just so you understand exactly how those may operate and the different effects they have and why maybe I'm choosing something over another. So when building a team around Tartaglia, it's entirely vital to understand his kit and how it operates on the field. With Tartaglia, he is essentially a main DPS character. However, he operates a little bit differently than most, in the sense that when he's doing his main DPS is in his E stance, and he'll be doing huge amounts of damage then, but when you're out of it, it has a fairly long cooldown. And to help mitigate that, some of my first teams here have an alternative main DPS to be able to deal that damage while Tartaglia is on cooldown. That way you're not missing out on any damage and hurting your overall DPS. And I think that's something you definitely want to keep in mind when building any team around Tartaglia. However, we'll go ahead and move on into those. Moving on to our very first team here, this is my best team overall, and actually the team I've been using. A couple notes before we get into why I chose things. I do have a couple of, just artifact suggestions below everybody, as well as the important reactions and the elemental resonance that's going on with this particular party, as well as kind of a little overview in the concept section there. You can go ahead and read those as you like. I'm not going to read them. This is just for your viewing pleasure while I talk about my choices and why I made them. So for our very first team here is Tartaglia, Fischl, Xingqiu, and Bennett, with the option of switching Fischl to Diona. And the reason I chose this team is to essentially continually deal electro charge damage. That's going to allow you to do huge amounts of damage over time, as well as getting constant vaporized procs with somebody like Bennett. As that is just going to deal huge amounts of damage. You can even set it up to where Tartaglia is dealing massive amounts with his elemental burst as long as you do the order properly. And kind of the combat loop here is to go ahead and start off with Xingqiu, get his swords up, and then get Fischl going, and then you just DPS with Tartaglia, and then when you swap out of his stance, you'll want to go to Bennett as your main DPS and kind of use him as your alternative, and then getting your vaporized procs with Xingqiu, maybe with his elemental burst, and then swapping back to Bennett while you wait for Tartaglia to cool down. And the alternative here is to have Diona, as she's going to provide a sort of crowd control aspect to the team when she freezes people, since everything's going to be wet between Xingqiu and Tartaglia. Freezing everything is super easy, and then you can go ahead and clean them up with melt procs on Bennett, which are going to deal 2 times damage, which is going to be huge. And you might be wondering, well, where's the heals here? The heals are actually split up between Xingqiu and Bennett. Xingqiu is going to be providing that damage resistance, as well as some healing with his swords, and Bennett's going to be providing most of the healing with his elemental burst. And these are definitely sufficient healing sources, as the Soothing Waters elemental resonance bonus here is going to increase incoming healing by 30%, so you don't have to really worry about Bennett's 70% max HP cap on his healing, as it's just going to heal above that. And no, you're not going to get to 100 more often than not, but it's definitely going to be keeping your team alive. But if you feel personally that those heals aren't enough, Diona is definitely a great option. She'll be a fantastic healer and be providing shields for the team. and definitely a great support choice. However, if you want the biggest DPS, I think probably Fischl is going to be your choice. You know, that is just kind of how that team works. I absolutely love this team, and obviously it maybe isn't the best for exploration as you don't have a Claymore user to mine. However, you know, those of you who are maybe like, oh, well, you don't have like a Claymore or Geo to take down shields, don't worry, you just need to focus on the overload combination here that deals extra damage to shields. So you just have to focus on using Fischl and Bennett in those instances when you are stuck behind a shield. And also, the team has a good elemental variety to take down most shields anyway, so when you run into shields that you can't typically take down, you do just have to focus on that overload, which isn't very often. Moving on to Team 2 here, we have the Vaporized Crowd Control team, and the overall concept here is to generally use Sucrose to debuff the enemies to Hydro, while also having the ability to have constant Vaporize procs through Zhongling's ability since they stay on the field. So essentially, you'll be wanting to debuff with Sucrose, and you'll be wanting to apply Vaporize procs with Zhongling here while you're using Tartaglia as your main DPS. And then obviously Barbara is going to be your main healer, and she'll be doing massive heals with the Soothing Waters Elemental Resonance here. But you could obviously swap to Diona if you wanted to, that way you are getting the freeze and the melt procs. But, you know, that's just kind of your preference. I think Barbara is probably the better choice here, especially if you have something like a C2 Barbara that's going to be increasing your Hydro damage by 15%. Just, you know, overall making your team that much stronger. It's a pretty strong team here. Definitely not the best in my opinion, but definitely a great option to go ahead and try. And then for the third team here, admittedly, this one's a little wonky, but I really love the concept. And once I get Jean and Ningguang built out, we'll go ahead and try it out ourselves. But essentially, this is mostly conceptual. I haven't been able to try it out, but it seems really cool. And the idea here is having Tartaglia, Xingqiu, Jean, and Ningguang with, you know, you could swap Xingqiu with Zhongling here. And the idea here is to debuff with the Viridescent set with the Hydro Element, and then buff the Hydro Element with the Archaic Petra set, to where you're just dealing massive amounts of Hydro damage. Obviously, this isn't the most versatile team that's going to be able to take out every element, and it also lacks, you know, just kind of elemental reactions, which is why I think the Zhongling is also a great option there. But the kind of general concept here is to just debuff and buff Hydro as much as possible and try to deal as much damage as possible in that way. And I think it's kind of hilarious. And we have Jean here, even though she's not the best Viridescent set, you know, a companion for swirls and whatnot, she's a fantastic healer, and I think, you know, that is definitely something you want to have on a team, obviously. If we get another Anemo healer in the future that can do a better job at swirl, I would obviously say swap her out there. But essentially, it is a little bit wonky, but it seems like a really fun concept to just be dealing as much Hydro damage as humanly possible between the buff and the debuff here. And for our fourth and our final here, I am doing a free-to-play friendly one. I'll always do a free-to-play friendly based around any character. Obviously, you know, Childe isn't necessarily free-to-play friendly, but maybe you're free-to-play friendly and you just got lucky on Childe. So essentially here, the concept here is very similar to the first in the fact that you're going to have Childe/Tartaglia here. I'm going to swap between those all the time. Barbara, Fischl, and Zhongling, with the options of switching to Noelle and Lisa. You can get Fischl from the new event. Obviously, you can't get her quite yet, but in the future you're going to, which is why I included her here. However, if you have a built-out Lisa, then maybe that's going to be the move for you. And the concept here is essentially the same as the first, to try and do as much electrocharge damage as possible with the Hydro Element and Fischl, as well as getting constant Vaporize procs with somebody like Zhongling. Zhongling is a fantastic unit for Childe, as all of her abilities stay on the field while he's on the field, just allowing you to get those constant Vaporize procs. And then, you know, the different electrocharge procs are also going to be able to help. And then we included Barbara as the healer here. Obviously, if you have the C2 Barbara, like I mentioned before, that Hydro damage bonus is going to go to Childe, which is going to be huge. But if you don't have a built-out Barbara, then maybe somebody like Noelle is going to be better for your team, providing that shield and providing some solid heals, as well as the Geo element. And then Lisa is also a pretty solid choice here. I just don't think she's necessarily as good as Fischl, since Lisa's abilities don't necessarily stay out on the field. Her elemental burst does, but her skill doesn't. Fischl's just a little bit better at being a turret, And, since Childe is your main DPS, then you're probably going to want to go with that. And Zhongling is also going to be able to substitute as your main DPS when Childe is on his cooldown here, which is probably what you're going to want to focus on. Probably give her something like Crescent Pipe, which makes her DPS absolutely insane, while still providing, a really good support role. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. I had a great time making the graphics and stuff, putting out something a little bit more professional than usual was pretty fun to do. Obviously, I didn't really script this as much. I don't really script many things at all. Maybe I will in the future just to make it a little bit more structured. But if you have a character you would like for me to make a team composition video in the future, I would absolutely love to go ahead and do that if I can. So let me know in the comments below. Also, any feedback in the comments below is deeply appreciated, as I would love to make these videos as best as I possibly can. But anyway, subscribe for more. Obviously going to be doing more content like these. Probably going to do these team composition videos once a week. But other than that, I hope you guys have a fantastic rest of your day. My name's Blossoms, so I'll catch you later. Peace.